Good morning.
Hey, Mike, how's it going, man?
Good. Welcome to Perspective Shift, everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
We are back. New week, 2022. Feeling good. How about you, Frank?
You're still counting the year. It's still January.
Counting.
It's still a new year, right?
Yep.
Yeah, everything's good, man.
Yeah.
Really
good week.
excited. Yeah, amazing week, yeah.
Nice. Anything amazing you'd like to share?
Amazing, everything. So,
Right.
we talked about this on the last podcast. I'm going to a workshop
Hell yeah.
at the end of this month. And it's a meditation workshop thrown by Dr. Joe Dispenza. So I know I've been meditating a lot. Like within 1 week, it's going to be like 35 to 40 hours of meditation.
That is so awesome.
It is. So in order to prepare, I've been meditating a lot more. And what's interesting is you hit different levels of consciousness or conscious states, which it lets you know that there is no end to this. Because, if I wasn't going, I'd probably still meditating at the same rate, which the rate I was meditating, it was really good. I was doing about an hour to 2 hours a day. Now I'm up to about 3 or 4 hours a day.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's, people always ask me, where do you find the time? I'm like, it's amazing how much time you waste. I don't.
That's the truth.
Yeah, I don't go to bed any earlier or go to bed any later or whatever.
Or
get
wake up
early,
any
I should
earlier.
say, yeah.
Yep.
It's I just dedicate the time to it, and it's amazing too because when I do that, everything I need to get done during the day actually works out. So there is this thing where time compresses, or you're so focused is really what it is.
That natural state of flow.
Yeah, and you get into it, and it's life becomes easier that way.
No, I
It's
know exactly
enjoyable.
what you mean. I do that sometimes, or not sometimes, daily. Especially if I have like a stressful day ahead of
Yeah.
me or something, a lot of plans. I just calmly, tell myself, today's gonna flow freely, easily, effortlessly.
Isn't it amazing? Like you say, I have a stressful day. We actually generate that idea, that perception.
Yep.
Or the concept of a stressful day, because what is a stressful day? A stressful day is really when you're at that high beta level and the mind is overthinking and the mind's trying to figure out what to do in the next moment. So you go into this state where it's kind of like a scattered brain. So that's the difficult day, but it's in the mind. There is no day that's difficult. It's just how we perceive it.
That's
like
it.
The sun doesn't struggle to come up.
Well, I love that you said scattered because that's what it is.
Yeah.
What's the ratio? We got or what's the number? We've got like 60 to 70,000 thoughts that we think a day, right?
Yeah.
So at that level, look at each of those thoughts as if it was a separate tab on your internet browser.
Yeah.
And so our minds, that the software of the computer, right? And we have these 60 to 70,000 tabs open. How could that not be stressful? When we're trying to attach and latch on to each of these thoughts. Oh, do I need to do that? Oh, I can't forget this.
Yeah.
Oh, this hurts. Oh, I don't like this. Oh, I like this.
Yeah.
It's a constant chase, and that's what's draining us. That's the stress. That's the energy sucker, if you will, is our attention being put on all of these and attaching to all of these thoughts. I like to look at it, too, as if we are a host. So if we are a host, we can choose what thoughts we allow ourselves to attach onto or to host. And so when we're looking at these, if we aren't enjoying that feeling or if we feel stressed, that means we are hosting a series of mental thoughts, interpretations, etc., that we can easily let go of.
Yeah, so we're the chooser of that. So.
Absolutely. The chooser, the judge. I've heard a number of different names for what this is, but ultimately it's our choosing to accept the situation as it is or create a mental mind pattern or story about what's occurring.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us, and we were taught this, we were programmed to think this way, that we're missing out. So we try to jam everything
yes. In. They have a term for that nowadays, the new
mental
age.
Illness?
No, they call well, that too. They call it FOMO, FOMO.
FOMO?
Fear of missing out.
Really?
Yep,
Wow,
you'll see it online, like little hashtags.
Isn't that funny? They have to keep coming up with stuff.
They always will.
It drives me nuts when someone texts me something like that. I'm like, what
like
does
a little
that mean?
4-letter
Now I have to ask
acronym,
them,
and you're like,
what
I
does
gotta
that mean?
Google this shit.
I gotta Google it, right? I'm like, just speak in English. You're like, were you lazy? You can't put the full phrase out?
Right.
Come on.
Right. No, I know what you mean.
FOMO.
Shit, that's just like part of internet culture. You know
It
what
is,
I mean?
yeah.
But that's one thing I Googled, was that? What is this FOMO thing, But when I Googled it, I was like, it means fear of missing out. And I'm like, okay.
See, Mike was in fear of missing out of what FOMO was.
Seriously. That's exactly what happened. So I had to trust handy old Google, but I figured it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a constant state of I might be missing out on something. And what we're actually chasing is we have a very, very, as a society, we have conditioned ourselves, our kids, members of our society, that happiness is found in the form of pleasures. And so people are often confusing happiness with pleasures. And so we chase these pleasures with the idea and expectancy that these are going to bring happiness. And then after that dopamine hits, or dopamine, fades away, or serotonin, whatever it is, when you achieve dopamine. You get that hit that you crave, this is great, you feel good, and then it fades away. This happens when you buy a watch, a new car, a new house, anything, anything. These things that we say, I'm going to be so happy when I get this.
Yeah,
it's not the case.
And anything outside of us. So me and Mike aren't telling you not to experience the outside world and not have pleasures.
Not at all.
But don't attach to it.
More see it for what it is.
Yeah, exactly, because it's always fleeting. So like when you get the new watch, a new car, a new house, how long after does the excitement go off because you're putting it into the outside field? But when you actually generate the excitement first, and I was actually telling a client this, they were having an issue with something. So I'm like, okay. They're like, and I was telling them about the expansion I'm doing within my business. And they're like, see, I need something to be excited about. I'm like, and I says, no, that's putting the cart in front of the horse. You want to get excited, and then the things present themselves in the fashion in which you want to experience.
Absolutely.
But if you are trying to look for the outside world to generate your excitement, again, it's like the story I told a while ago, but the young kid goes off and plays in the woods and throughout the day and comes home for dinner, and, the dad asks, how was your day? And the kid says, it's great. And then the dad presents the first question. Why was it great? And the kid had what do you mean, why was it great? Like, what did you do? I played in the woods. I climbed a tree. Oh, it must have been climbing the tree that made me feel good. So now we gave the responsibility of feeling good to climbing the tree, and it had nothing to do with it. There's a correlation, though. But when I felt good, my impulse was to climb the tree, and that expanded. It was the expression of my feeling good. When I feel good, writing a book, writing a song, or a painting, or going for a walk was expressions. They weren't the causation. So if you're an artist and you felt good and you came up with this masterpiece, what people recognize because you were in this state, that's why it was a masterpiece. Now you're trying to replicate it. So the author will say, I have writer's block. I'm like, you only have writer's block because you're thinking it was the thing. It wasn't. It was here and it came out. So we're like Bluetooth machines. Things come through us.
That's
not
honestly,
from us. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite stories.
Yeah.
So that's how I personally really started to understand conditioning. When you told me that story, and this was a long time ago, but that is so the epitome of conditioning. We sit down at the table for dinner with our families, and we don't even realize this day after day, year after year, and we ask, how was your day? Okay, I had a great day. Why? We then have to come up with a story. We have to create a reason within our minds to why we feel a certain way. And that is so backwards and so incorrect. Yeah, it's incorrect, but it's how we've been raised. Many of us, especially in the Western culture, give me a reason why you feel this way. I want to hear your story, your created thought process of why this is that. And that's just not the case. If we're living in that state of mind, then it's, okay, you're constantly creating a narrative. And it's in the narrative that we get stuck or caught up because we carry these narratives about who we are. So what we really are is a mind-created self of all these stories that we have carried with us since childhood. These stories of, this is why I don't like people. This is why I'm an introvert. This is why I'm depressed. This is why I'm angry. And it's all these narratives and stories.
And this is why FOMO came out.
Yeah, but we were taught as a kid, if you feel a certain way, tell us why.
Yeah.
And so this is a big reason why conditioning, holds us back from finding truth or peace, or for accepting this situation as it is right now.
And it's such a subtle thing, and that's why the correlation is, what I did was made excited. Like, no, your excitement generated, and then the doing was an expression of it. So this is how religions start, doctrines, and then like businesses start systems. So they want people to do this every day. Wake up in the morning, make your bed, go to the gym. I'm like, that has nothing to do with it at all. Now, if I'm in this state of feeling good, first, I'm going to get up and I'm going to make my bed. And if you like going to the gym, you're going to go to the gym. But that is not what's generating the energy. The energy is mind. We live in a mind universe. To think we live in a physical universe, it's not, because it's we create, the mind creates the material or the frequency. So at a lower, denser frequency, this table becomes physical matter. But yet, if they actually looked at it, it's 99.99% energy, which is just mobile. It's a denser energy. So again, we explain like through science, if you want to look it up, you can't put your hand through it because you're vibrating at a different frequency to it. You're bucking up against it.
I was watching Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah?
I watched the new one with my brother this weekend. And
there's a new Ghostbusters?
Yeah, a new one.
Oh, my God.
It came out in 21. And it was the granddaughter of one of the original Ghostbusters.
It's not the child. It's the granddaughter.
Yeah.
It's going to be great grandkids.
She made this joke, and it was like, why does nobody trust atoms? Or why does nobody believe atoms? And the answer, or the pun, the joke was, because they make up everything.
Yeah.
And I like,
yeah, they make up everything.
But like what Frank is talking about is down to the science of this. Everything is made up of these atoms, these little electrons, these little microscopic.
In what we call the physical world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we.
Because the quantum field is what they call black energy or black matter.
Well, it's just so funny because we take everything that we can see, taste, touch, smell as only things that are as the only things that are real. But it's very far from that, because like when we look at like a fly or a snake or these different animals or like a dog that we know see in certain colors, experience their world in different colors. It's a very different experience for a human. So to think that we're not experiencing the world in a different way is just foolish. There's so much outside of this see, smell, touch, hear, taste world outside of us that we just aren't registering. And through meditation, through silence, through being, this is how we begin to access this dark matter or this world around us. There is so much more around us than the table, than the microphone, whatever.
Yeah.
There's so much more all around us at all times.
And to bring it back, not to get esoteric with this, but to bring it back, as you look at the human body, it's a machine. And so you look at the different parts of the brain, the levels we've gone up through, and they state that we've been to 5 levels of human existence, and everything from Neanderthal to where we are right now. And right now we're starting to access, say we utilize about 5% of our brain, but the 5% of our brain that we're utilizing is the frontal cortex. So when you look at the base of the brain, the reptilian brain, we're using a lot of that. That's the survival mode. So as we shift it, so one will say we're using 100% of our brain, but 95% of it is in a survival mode, and only 5% is in that frontal cortex. And we actually start to shift the energy and move it in. And meditation helps you into that frontal. You actually move out of survival and into creative expansion. Because this is what the human brain is. The animal brain is a survival mode. So the reason we're connected to animals because they have survival as well. From what I understand, I haven't studied animals, but they don't have the frontal lobe that we do. The expansive, like you don't see a dog thinking like, I'm going to write a book. It's funny that we write a book for dogs and we tell this is what the dog is thinking. But
well, the frontal lobe then kind of processes the narrative.
Yeah, but what it does, it actually expands beyond the physical world. So when we get in there, we start thinking about this. Once we start utilizing more of it as individual, actually, if you do it individually, you'll see the world completely different, regardless of what's going on around you. You don't need to stick your head in the sand at all. You actually rise above it. Just like, yes, on the freeway there's traffic, but to the pilot that can look down and see the traffic, they're not affected by it. And as we do that, and that's why you think about years ago, you don't see it too much, but because now we have satellites and even drones, but the traffic was run by a guy in a helicopter, right? It wasn't run by a guy in a car. So the guy in a helicopter isn't in traffic, but he could see the breaking points where to open up, to help out. And he could tell you why, or she can tell you why the traffic is jammed. So that's
a great example. We have the ability to get to that level. That's what Frank's saying.
And as we use more of the frontal lobe and how to use frontal lobe, it's not like, again, like this exercise. I'm like, no. It doesn't work that way. It's actually stepping out and separating yourself from the physical body. And that's what meditation does.
Yeah, and I just want to this is a great example. When you're stuck in this traffic, that's like being caught in the mind. And through meditation, through quieting the mind, whatever method you'd like to utilize, you then begin to realize, oh, the things that are going on in my life, they are because of me. And you start to accept these situations. You start to see you start to realize, wow, I've been blaming a lot of people, the outside world, for things that have been happening to me, and saying, oh, this is why I couldn't do this, or this is why I can't accomplish this. You're seeing it from above now. So now you're like the helicopter seeing the traffic, or you're seeing the people in traffic.
To youngins out there, it's a...
to a satellite or a drone?
A drone.
Yeah, there you go. You're the helicopter. Yeah, you can see it. But like that break from the mind allows you to kind of see, okay, when these situations start to come up and you find yourself in stressful situations, now you say to yourself, okay, why am I responding this way? And you look deeper. You're actually going within to solve your problems. You're not trying to fix the problems in the outside world like you always were before. And I personally did this all the time. I didn't realize, I kept trying to fix things outside of me and say, oh, I just need to do this task this way in order to get this done. That's not how this reality really works. I mean, yes and no. There are certain tasks you can continue to do outside of you, and then it's a very long, slow road. But you can go within and do this type of work, and it kind of speeds up that process, and it allows you to. And this is why you can, change your life in a matter of a year, a matter of 6 months, etc. Is you are getting into a whole different vibration, a whole different mental energy, and you're no longer controlled by the old energy or the old thought process. So you don't need to continue to repeat these mistakes, if you will, or repeat these life lessons. Ultimately, what karma is talking about is, hey, you're going to experience this in different ways, in different life situations, until you realize that you are the root cause and you are the root source of your suffering or your mental comment, whatever, it's the example of the drone above is after you have identified your strength within, and then you go above and you no longer feel trapped in traffic anytime something's coming up, because okay, I'm the answer, I'm the source to get out of this.
Yeah. Well, to make it in a very pragmatic way, when you are in traffic, what the metaphor there is, you don't see a solution. So, but yet, if like right now, if you are in traffic, you could hit your GPS and the GPS say, oh, there was an accident up above. about a mile from where you are, all of a sudden that alleviates the anxiety. The anxiety is not knowing. It doesn't mean you'll never be in traffic ever again. It doesn't mean you don't play in the outside world. We came here to play in the outside world, physical beings. So if I don't know what's going on, I see the car in front of me, I see the car to the right of me, I see the car to the left of me, I have to assume that the only thing I can see is the only thing I can blame. But when I actually understand, I could rise above it and see, oh yeah, there was an accident up ahead. And now I'm thinking like, oh, hope the person's okay. But now the understanding of what is going on alleviates the suffering. But when you're down here, you don't know what's going on. You can't see what's going on. That's why people try to rubberneck, like, what's going on? But once you understand what's going on, it alleviates this anxiety, this stress. Now you're more accepting of it. But how do I understand what's going on? And there's no ceiling to this. When you go within, close your eyes, and don't do it while you're in traffic. Because that's what causes traffic, by the way. And you meditate, you start separating yourself from the physical world. But then after the meditation, you're coming back, and what we want to do is a walking meditation. Because, again, we said this before, the word meditation in the West means contemplate, to come to contemplation. Or in the East, in Sanskrit, it means to become familiar with. So what I want to do, I tell people, I'm like, the reason I meditate is it generates this feeling, a vibration. I want to become familiar with that. And when I come really familiar with that, nothing in the external world I come up against will actually take me away from it. So becoming familiar with feeling good, if I do it every day, several times a day, doesn't matter what happens. I don't have to even change my thought to that thing, tell a different story. Like I did in the beginning. Like a guy cut me off, gave me the finger. I'm like, oh, he's probably got a 2-year-old. He's racing to the hospital to help me out. Now I don't even need the story. Because I feel so good, I don't even need the story anymore. Boom, let it go. Who cares? It's not happening to me unless I grab it. And everything is happening to you. You know, who was voted in as president? Oh, my God, I can't believe what they're doing to me. Who's they? They who voted for that person I don't like. It's like, well, I'm sure they feel the same way about you. You know,
exactly. and you're going to stay stuck in traffic when you're thinking that way.
But when you're still in traffic, again, it's not that we don't have challenges, and that's part of life. It's like a Rubik's Cube. You know, you want to work through it. But when you stand above it and see it differently, you can actually get there. You can actually see how to turn the Rubik's Cube. Yeah. That's where it's not about like, oh, hell with the Rubik's Cube. It's about standing above it, thinking outside of it. So people who do it really quick can see the whole thing at once, where I can only see one side of it at once at this point. I'll come back to it eventually and maybe see the whole thing. But when you actually stand above it, you can see the whole thing, and that's how people know what to do. And people are like, well, how did you do that? I'm like, yeah, you really can't explain that. It's like asking somebody, how did you swing the bat that way? I just did. You know, any sport, like how you just do.
But like also to that point is there's no one way to swing that bat. And to say, oh, this is how I swung that bat, now I'm creating a set of conditions that must be in your mind. I must do A, B, and C to swing the bat that way. Yeah. And that's not true. Your way of swinging that bat is so much different than Frank's way or my way. There is no one way.
Yeah.
We all access that same source. We all are that same source. But we are just different expressions of that same one being. So to think that I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna do A, B, and C, and then I'll be able to, knock this ball out of the park. That's just foolish.
No, when you get into the state and feeling the excitement, and then you go do the activity, what that does is it actually links it to your body. So they've done these studies where they will take like college students, and I heard Dr. Joe Dispenza talking about this, and they'll take one group and they'll give them like a weight, and for I forgot what the time, just say a week, 7 days, they will lift a certain weight, a certain amount of times per day, and their muscle strength would go up like 36 something percent.
Okay.
They took another group of kids, did the same thing, but without the physical aspect. They would go in their mind and think about lifting the weight. And their strength didn't quite get to that 30 something percent. It was like just shy of it, like 29% stronger. Now, one of the reasons this is because there's always like doubt. Like if you took something that no one's ever done before, they would have been equal. But because the college kid is like, well, if I'm not lifting weight, how is it going to work? So I'm just going to do the experiment. Yeah, so you're like, yeah, it'd be more. We think the outside world doing is what the causation is. I'm like, no, it's a correlation. But the correlation is when I go in and picture it or imagine it, and then it's not even what I'm doing, it's the feeling. So if I lifted weights and I know what it felt like, I can go in and actually what it felt like, I actually had to imagine it before, but it happens so quickly, we think it's the cart in front of the horse where it's actually the horse in front of the cart. So it's how I felt. Because there are people that go to the gym every day, I see them, and when I talk to them, they get, oh, I pulled my back, I did this. So, and I'm thinking like, dude, this is supposed to be a healthy exercise or a healthy, thing to do, but yet you seem to be getting hurt. It's because they think they have to do it in order to be healthy, so they're fighting against it, and they're going to do it regardless of how the back is going. And so the mind is, I must do this in order to get healthy. I'm like, no, get healthy, and doing this will be fun. Get in the right state of mind, and no matter what, even traffic would be fun. Because, if you listen to that book on tape, and, you're in traffic, you get to listen more of it, so to speak.
In a vague way, what Frank's describing is no resistance and accepting things as they are.
Yeah, but then when you hit the ground running, there's the resistance. But in my meditation, I'm listening to get to a point where there is no resistance. But then I take that and I want to feel the resistance in the doing. But now I'm locking it into my body, so I got the mind and body connection. And that's what we want. So when I have the mind and body connection, I use the mind first and body connectors. That's when I go to swing the bat every day. So when I get to that place, I don't have to think about it. I just swing. Someone's throwing a ball at me, I swing. And all of a sudden I'm connected and I want to use that format. But right now, what do? We've been doing this our whole life. But when someone says, hey, is this seat taken? Yeah, it's mine. Go fuck yourself.
Yep.
Sorry for the language, but
no, I know what you mean.
All of a sudden, instead of swinging the bat perfectly, we're reacting to the outside world in a way that we actually taught ourselves. That was the mind-body connection. Everyone has a mind-body connection, but what is your mind connecting your body to? Is it stress or is it enlightenment? In a light state. So when I say enlightenment, it's not this new agey thing. It means lightening up and making it easier.
Relax.
But yeah, I'm still in the physical world. Everything is still pragmatic. These principles are scientifically proven. I'm not a new ager type person that just says, hey, 2 + 2 is 10. I'm like, no, it's still 4, baby.
Yeah.
But it's not about doing that, but it's explaining the principles. And the first thing is you must get into that state, and then the doing, and then when your body gets linked to that. Okay, now when I want to do something different. So if I got that swing down, I think I got it down. Now I want to nuance that swing. Okay, I go back in. Now I have to change my swing. Now I do it so subtle. It's a subtle nuance. I do this with boxing every day. I go in and I'll hit the bag or do pads, or even if I spar. I go in now not trying to survive anymore. I go in, I'm like, what new subtlety can I do today? And I have to do it on my couch the morning of. And then when I go to the gym and I start working out, oh, man. Now in the beginning, to me, it seems awkward. But to the rest of the people watch me, it's not. But then I get used to this new level and I take it up notch. But to me, it's subtle, but it's awkward to me. Like,
because it's unknown.
Yeah, it's unknown. But to the rest of people around it, they don't pick it up. But I notice it. But until I become familiar with it, so I go back on the couch the next day, close my eyes to it, and all of a sudden, bam, it becomes part of me. Now it's programmed. And guess what? I got to do something different.
And that's how it works.
But when I say something different, I can still do the same thing. Boxing, playing guitar, whatever it is.
Oh, the program is still there.
Yeah. But I'm saying...
You can access it if you need it.
Yeah, but I'm saying... Like I could do the same act, but now I want to get like a great actor will always try to expand greater. The only thing I know truly is expansion. And what I mean by that is I only know expansion because that's all there is. How I choose to expand is up to me. Because you can expand it to poverty, you could expand it to disease, you can expand it to health, you can expand it to wealth.
Where is your focus?
Expansion is the only thing that we know. Everything else we don't know.
Can you interchange expansion with change?
Change is expansion.
There we go.
It's just a different word. Everything is changing. So, a wealthy person's, the rich get rich, the poor get poor. It's in the Bible. And so the rich that get rich is expansion. It's change. No, if I have $5 and I claim myself to be wealthy, the 5 will turn to 10, then to 10,000, then to 10 million. But the physics works the other way too. If I have $5 and I claim to be poor, the 5 turns into 250. Then I owe $5. Now I owe 10 grand.
See, that right there is such a powerful concept that I want to make sure everybody listening, that is how this works. And too often we get caught up in this old conditioning pattern of, I just can't claim, to be abundant in my current state. And that is what is holding you back. I struggled with this 4. When I started this practice, I remember being like, I just couldn't kick this feeling of lack. And that is the boundary you gotta get over.
And that what you said is 100% right. If you're in a state of lack, you can't change that. But know this: we're individuals, and because we can walk around and move around, we are not attached to the state. We're actually incorporating into the state. We're in the world, but not of it. And let's just take from a pragmatic statement. I've used this before in a couple of podcasts before, but here me and Mike are sitting in Phoenix, Arizona right now. And in this state, we're going to see valleys, we're going to see mountains, cacti, right? But if me and Mike want to see the ocean, we have to leave the state. In the state of Arizona, you are not going to see an ocean. So if I'm in the state of lack, you're not going to see abundance. But when I go within, I can get out of the state of lack and go into the state of abundance. So just like I can get in my car or get an airplane and make my way to California, make it way to San Diego, and therefore I can see the ocean. It's a different state. So don't try to change the state. Don't go to a lake and tell yourself you're seeing an ocean. That's lying to yourself.
We're not telling
These
you
are pragmatic.
To be crazy.
No, yeah. Like it's 2 + 2 is 10. I'm like, well, here's $4. I owed you $10 from last week, right? Someone that's like, all right, if you want to say that, here's $10. And it's like, no, it's 4. I'm like, well, according to you, it's 10. Mm-hmm. So the value doesn't really come across. You can't. There's a game we're playing, all right? And I get it. I'm not trying to change the rules of the game. I'm just trying to stand above it like a drone and seeing all the options that other people can't see. And guess what? When I see the other options, I want to share it with people. I don't want to hoard it.
And how do you know there's other, or how do you access those other options? It's by knowing there are other options.
That's it.
You are never stuck. And that's the great part about consciousness, about this understanding.
That was a great way of saying it.
No more being stuck.
Yeah, that was a great way of saying it, because just knowing there's other options, that's all you need to know. You don't need to know what they are.
You don't get that panic over it anymore, like, the world has ended. I made the worst choice of my life. Like, guys, I remember those feelings, and they go away. Yeah.
All we need to know is we have choice. That's it. And the struggle with people right now in the world, when you listen to the news and the political, they feel they don't have a choice. And I'm like, at this level in traffic without the drone, you don't have a choice because you know what's going on. But why do you think you don't have a choice? So hopefully people listening in on this, because me and Mike came to understand this, that you always and forever have choice. You just have to elevate above the place in which you're in. You have to get out of the state in order to swim in that ocean. And when you do, like, oh, wow. So
you are never stuck.
You're never stuck, but you can feel like you're stuck. Yeah. If you think you're attached to the state, if you think this is who you are, if I think Frank is Arizona and I want to be to the ocean, I am in trouble. Now I have to wait for California to break off in a massive earthquake
to become part of the state of Arizona.
So that the ocean will come in.
Seriously.
But what's funny is that, like, there's a choice there, but that might take several thousand years, and I don't have that.
But
again,
that patient, that level.
Yeah, and again, it's not like I don't need a negative thing to happen for me to gain a positive aspect, and that's where the world goes along. I don't need to.
That's also mind conditioning.
Yeah.
We're taught there's a reaction.
Yeah, I don't need others to suffer for me to feel good. Actually, when I feel good and other people feel good, it expands. This is the aspect of cooperation in the fact of correlation and cooperation. Well, cooperation is a correlation with it, and we actually work in it. We all expand together. We're all in the same boat.
I do want to mention though, when you start to practice this, when you start letting go of these situations, you will be so surprised as to how the world begins to unfold all around you. These little events where it just makes life so like effortless for you and simple, and you start to just see the things that you needed to get done that day, or your goals, or whatever it may be. You just start to see these opportunities appear, and it's because you're no longer in your head going, I got to do this, then I got to be there, and then and you're running on like a slower vibration. It's like there's more like awareness. You have you have this newfound like confidence, this like sensation of knowing. And so when you navigate, now that you know there's always going to be a way out, you're never trapped. Mm-hmm. You don't ever get suffocated by situations. In fact, you kind of take them on in a peaceful state, knowing, hey, this is going to work out. I don't know how. I can't tell you, this is going to happen, then this, and then this. But I do know I'm going to be just fine. Yeah. And it's that confidence, it's that peace, it's that knowing that allows you to get there. And this is why, these like metaphors and analogies, like with religion exists, where people are like, turn it over to God. And they say this, God, is an analogy and a metaphor for consciousness. And so when you're turning it over to God, quote unquote, you're turning it over to this higher supreme intelligence within you, knowing that no matter what, this will work out. So what you're actually doing is you're saying, hey, subconscious, I need you to weave a web of things I enjoy and like to experience and have this work out. And through that knowing, it unfolds.
Yeah, because the universe is the ultimate organizer.
Yeah.
And we've all heard this axiom, right? If you want
to... But it's weird because we are that.
Yeah.
We are that
you're
organizer.
Connected to it. Yeah, you connect to it.
And it unfolds.
Yeah, and we all heard this axiom. If you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. Yeah. And I know people like, I'm a planner. I'm like, well, how's that working for you? What I am is a responder now. I was never good at planning, but I think innately I'm like, it's too, because nothing ever worked out. So, and even people like will say, okay, I have a plan. Plan A is going to get me out the door, but I'm going to rely on plan B, C, and D. I'm going to go all the way to Z if I have to. Yeah. So plan A is what gets you moving. So use a plan. Like
we're not saying don't have a plan.
But the plan is something to put out there. But if it doesn't happen your way, I know people, I've talked to people that have gotten what they wanted and more, but it didn't work out. It didn't come in the avenue which didn't. And they're like, why didn't it work out this way? I believe in the law of attraction. I'm like, it's your plan you got to let go of. I'm like, you got the thing you want to experience it, but now you're hung up on how it came. I'm like, if you found $1 million in a bag, or you came up with an idea to make $1 million, do you care? And some people are like, I do. I'm like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. Why? Why does it have to work out your way? There are so many individuals. If you're a millionaire, we know this. There are so many people involved in the collaboration of me becoming a millionaire that I cannot control them. So I stop it. I can control my perception onto it. I can witness it. I can feel it coming. But I cannot control the others around me that collaborated for me to get to that level of money. I can't. So I don't. But if I did, I'd be broke as hell. I really would, because now I have to make this person give it to me this way and that person that way. I'm like, no. It's not how it is. The universe is the organizer of it. Now, the universe already knows where you are, what path you want to go down. And so what I mean is, like I used this before, the GPS. So if I want to go somewhere, Doesn't matter where I am in the world, I can get anywhere. All right? I can get anywhere. And say I want to go to, Seattle. Doesn't matter where I am in the world, I can get there. But I live in Phoenix, my way of getting there is going to be different than someone that lives in London. All right? But the person in London can just as well get there. So can I. The universe knows where I am, so it knows how to get me there. I don't need to figure that out. But when I recognize where I'm at, I don't be like, why is this happening? I'm like, because you're in Phoenix. If I was trying to get to San Diego, if I was trying to get to San Diego, and a buddy of mine that lived in L.A. said, yeah, it takes me about an hour and a half to get to San Diego. I'm like, oh, shit, an hour and a half? Fuck, I can do that. All of a sudden, I'm like, why does it take me 5.5 hours? I'm like, because you live in Phoenix. If I didn't understand where I was, I would get frustrated because my buddy got there in an hour and a half. But he lives in L.A. and looking into the physical world and how you look at spatial time, yeah. If I was in L.A., yeah, it'd take me an hour and a half. Well, probably now 5 hours with traffic. But seriously, yeah, it's probably quicker now from Phoenix. But it's knowing where you are is all you need to know, and then you'll accept the way to get there. If you accept the way to get there, you listen to the impulse. When the GPS says make a right, you make a right. We give more faith in our GPS than we do in our own internal guidance system, which works far supremer. We were given this, all right? Some will say it's the pineal gland, but I think it's the whole frequency coming through the body. It's the mind. And then the body will generate a feeling, an impulse. Oh, that feels good. Okay, act on it as best as you can. Don't try to overthink it. No, act on it as best you can. And then you'll lead you to the next thing. Life is nothing but a scavenger hunt. I cannot know how to get to the next course in the scavenger hunt until I read this one. When I get to this one, it will lead me to the next one. To think it's different. But when you get better at this, you quantumly leap over these scavenger hunts.
And when you're in this state, you also you don't judge, like how Frank was saying his buddy, take him, hey, I'm going to be LA in an hour and a half, from where he was in California. That different state, we're all in different states. We all have different levels of conditioning. And to be, a lot of people will get upset that they didn't achieve or accomplish something quicker or in an amount of time, or like Frank was just saying, it will take him an hour and a half. It will take me 5.5 hours, to get to that same state. So the mind will start to say things like, "Oh, you're not good enough. You should be further along," or "Why is this taking you so much long?" It's becoming aware of that voice and knowing that is also the conditioning. That is ego. Yeah. And so a lot of us get caught up in, well, it took this person this amount of time to get this done. I must be different. This is different for me. And all of that head chatter, that mental commentary, that is what's holding you back. So then you begin to realize, wow, it is this mental commentary about myself in a situation as I'm writing this narrative in my head. That's what's holding me back. So then you let go of that. And then you have this big leap, and now it only took you 2.5 hours to get wherever you're trying to go. But those are those quantum leaps Frank's describing.
Yeah, and we've known this. Me and Mike aren't the ones making this up, but everyone knows a story about the tortoise and the hare. And if you actually look at they both finished the race or whatever you want. But when they look at the premise of it, now it doesn't matter how fast you go. You could be the hare. I don't care. But the format was the tortoise took its time, where the hare was running around. But if you want to sprint, if you want to take an airplane to San Diego, you're not. In that case, I'm not thinking it's better than driving because I got there quicker. That has nothing to do with it. So trying to get somewhere quick anymore is kind of a ridiculous thing. Where are we trying to go? We're never going to get this done. And if someone told you the finish line was the grave or the incinerator, would you be racing anymore? And the answer is hell no.
You'd be taking your
sweet-ass time. But in my sweet-ass time, I might be sprinting, but I enjoy the sprint. I might be crawling, but I enjoy the crawl. I'm not subject to, I have to sprint because I'm late, and I have to crawl because I'm not worthy of sprinting. That is not it. When I crawl, I choose to crawl. When I sprint, I choose to sprint because of the experience of sprinting, the experience of crawling, but not because one is better than the other. That's absurd. The Ferrari isn't better than Toyota. It's different. The Ferrari can go a lot faster than Toyota, but the Toyota can take my kids to soccer practice. Imagine pulling up into the Ferrari. You got like 5 kids falling out of this Ferrari. They'll actually be hanging on top of the car. Hold on tight, kids. Daddy, we forgot the balls. Oh, shit.
We couldn't fit them.
You couldn't fit them.
I'll be right back.
Hey, this is a mental world. Pretend there's a soccer ball, son.
Yeah,
just kick it. It's like, yeah, my dad's mental.
But that's the truth. It's all these little mental mind games that we play where we're like, all right, I need to be in this Ferrari, then I'm going to be there. And
it's the judgment of it. And what's funny is people we notice now, people that acquired a lot of money and had enough time on the planet with it and notice that they're the least judgy people. It's the people that are trying to get there. Like, I was talking to someone like, oh, people shouldn't do this. This is better. I'm like, based on what? I have a buddy that has like, he's got a lot of cars, like a Lamborghini. He's just bought a Lamborghini for almost $600,000.
Whew.
But he doesn't give a shit about that. He likes the speed. He's a car guy, but he can give a shit. He can care about. He doesn't do it to pull up in front of people. Matter of fact, he pulls up in his older car half the time. He doesn't. When I say pull up, he doesn't go in crowds with this thing.
Yeah.
He just uses it for his own experience. But he can give a shit. But he likes the machine. But if he purchased a car for his inflated ego, that's a tough life to live. That really is a tough life to live.
It's a constant chase.
Yeah.
You will never find happiness that way.
Because it's like the second someone mentioned like anyone that's more wealthy than you, all of a sudden you're suffering. Yeah. So all you have to say, someone's like, oh, I'm richer than you are. You just say Elon Musk.
Well, what's so funny is like your buddy or whoever, if your worth is associated with that car,
yeah, you're in trouble.
Then at that point, next weekend when you pull up at that, nice restaurant down the street, guess what? When you pull up, there's going to be 3 models now of that Ferrari, and somebody's going to have that 2022 that just came out with this type of doors and whatever, and the world starts to reflect back at you, and now you don't have what is needed, and so it's this constant chase. And you read stories about this all the time. You see this very clearly, in these in the lives of celebrities and famous people, etc. People are always like, oh, if I just had money, everything would be easier. Yeah, it would be a little more comfortable. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But actually, our society is now suffering from comfort.
But that's it. Yeah. I was just going to say, it's in the comfort that we actually lose our growth.
Well, this is what's happening. This is interesting. The science is now catching up to this. People are like, why is there more cancer and other diseases more than any other time? Because we're trying to, in a comfortable world, like if you, like I'm watching that 1883.
Oh, hell yeah.
And you watch that, those people instinctively knew life could be more comfortable. They really did. Like, this sucks. That's why they're all, right?
Yeah. Constantly like in pain.
So they don't really want to create a predictable life. They want to change their life so that they're trying to get to the plane, to get to this area to where they can create a homestead.
Where we're at.
Yeah.
Right now as a society.
Exactly.
Extremely comfortable.
So here we are. We're stuck, not we, but a lot of people are stuck in the Newtonian physics, very predictable. I could predict everything, all right, in the physical world. But what happens is there's nothing new expanding from that. And this is where disease happens. So if I go along and I wake up every day, do the same thing over and over and over, my neural pathways are solidified into a program. And when I wake up and I drink the same coffee, brush my teeth the same way, get to the gym at the same time, I don't give a shit if you go to the gym or yoga, it still happens. I go to the gym and I lift the weights, I count the weights, I'm in there for 2 hours, boom, like clockwork. All of a sudden, my body, after a while, says, hey, you've been doing this for a year. Because the body's efficient, it's saying, we're going to produce a week of protein. Because you're doing the same thing.
Because the body knows what it's doing.
Hell
day
yeah.
in, day
it's
out.
predictable. So in a predictable diet, it doesn't need to exert my energy. So it produces a week of protein. All of a sudden, your genome the chromosomes start to break down through your telomeres, start to break apart, and this is what we blame it on aging. I'm like, it's not aging. It's actually predictable living. So if I'm living a predictable life, going to the gym every day and like, oh, my elbows, well, I'm getting older. I'm like, is that what you're telling yourself? Because I could see somebody at 7, well, their genes are better. I'm like, they are. Why are they? They think differently. They understand differently. So we could start reverting this. The science is there. If anyone wants to go look it up, me and Mike aren't making this stuff up. So when you actually change your perspective on the world, you actually change the dynamic of the neural pathways in your brain. You become more neuroplasticity. And when you do that, your body starts to change. The body will follow. Now, you could change the way you feel and think, and if you keep expanding it, you'll start noticing the change. It doesn't just happen overnight. The feeling could be quantum, but then you have to maintain that feeling constantly. And then what happens is, over time, you expand into that. So when I have a really good meditation, and I had this, felt amazing, I don't say this is it. No, there's more to it. There's more to it, more expansion. And even when I have meditations that are hard, I realize if I look at it differently, it wasn't any worse than the other one. It's just now I came up against something where the other one, there was very little resistance. And when there's very little resistance, my body was just almost becoming malleable and breaking apart. Where the resistance was, okay, that's where I have to focus my attention and figure a way around it. How do I do that? By rising above it and seeing the opening. So it doesn't matter how I feel in my meditation, they're all brilliant. But I understand that now. I don't think, oh, last week I felt great, and this week I don't know what's going on. I must be doing something wrong. So now you focus on the outside world. And now you're like, oh, I must be breathing wrong. I'm like, no, you're misunderstanding. It's a state. It's an experience. And we have seasons. All right, look outside your window. The outside world represents that. It's what we call a fractal. But if you enjoy winter, if you enjoy spring, if you enjoy summer, you enjoy fall, you'll never have a bad time. But to think it's not going to be cooler in the winter than the summer is where the problem lies. That's what it is. It's thinking it shouldn't be. I'm like, yeah, the cycles will let you know the variables. You're not just me floating out there. You'll see the flow of it. You'll see the logistics of it. You'll actually see it makes sense. You'll actually see the correlations. You'll see everything as it's moving. You don't just, boom, end up there. I don't just quantumly end up somewhere. I see myself heading there.
I want to touch on the neural pathway thing that you were just talking about, because I think that's important. When people understand what's going on it from the thinking mind, analytical mind aspect, it's easier to digest and let go of it. So when Frank brings up neural pathways, so we have these neurons, right, that fire together, they wire together. It's a very common phrase, meaning, so what you're thinking about, what you're focusing on, we create these neurons, and then these neurons create these pathways for the flow of energy and experience. So right now, we all have these neural pathways created, right? And so when you change anything within your routine, you are creating a new neural pathway. And so at first, you're going to experience some resistance to this.
Yeah, uncomfortableness. Yeah,
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You will experience uncomfort. And it's in this knowing that, all right, I need to get uncomfortable with this uncomfortable feeling. And so when you can analytically understand what you're doing, okay, this is why I'm uncomfortable. This is a new habit. This is a new,
whatever it is.
Thought, action, whatever. Creating, in my mental, my mind, I'm creating a new neural pathway. Okay. And so that's how I began to kind of understand and learn this. And it got me through these moments of the unknown or the uncomfortable where, I would kind of tense up or, no, it's just so much easier to relax, go jump on the couch and put on some TV show and veg out. You got to move beyond that, because unless you create these different pathways, nothing in your life will change. Nothing. It will completely stay the same. And you experience this sense of it becomes stagnant, and
the thing
this energy has to flow, and so it does create disease. And
because that's what changes. Actually, nothing in your life will never not change, but you want it to change in the direction in which you're pursuing. So if I just wake up every day and do the same thing, and all of a sudden, now I got some issues in my stomach, well, something changed. I got arthritis, something changed. But is that the change you want? And so change is constant. You can't stop change. Like,
you can't escape it.
Oh, yeah, I've never changed. I'm like, oh, you've changed, you know. But have you changed in the direction in which you want to speak of? And then, well, like, oh, I've changed. Well, yeah, I'm getting older, you know, and I can't get off the couch. And, oh, I certainly can't meditate. I'm like, all right, if you believe that,
you'll experience that.
Yeah, you'll keep changing away from that. But the second you step in, and what you're really saying is, I don't want to be uncomfortable. I'm like, that couch is going to be the most uncomfortable thing, because the universe is saying, if you don't choose your discomfort, I will choose it for you, because arthritis is uncomfortable. Cancer is uncomfortable. But if I'm willing to choose my discomfort, if I choose, they did a study, if I choose to go into an ice bath and I understand the benefits of it, I get the benefits. But if someone threw me in an ice bath, I can have a heart attack. It's not the ice. It's my willingness to put myself in discomfort is what it is. So even like Wim Hof, who is, they call him the Iceman, he tells people, it's like, oh, should I go in an ice bath? It's like, hell no. Do it for 15 seconds in the shower. Then work up to 30 seconds. You don't want to go running for the hills. You want to acclimate to it. But then one day you'll be sitting in an ice bath for an hour. And the longer you go, the nuances. Because if you did it for a half hour, how can I get more into discomfort? 45 minutes. It's the expansion.
It's funny. I don't know why it just popped into my head, but like that's probably why pregnancy takes 9 months. Imagine just being like, having a baby and like the amount of pain, you know?
Well, actually, we might be able to shorten that up. But it's true. It's
but
like,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So every manifestation has a gestation period.
Yeah.
This is the way life is. All right. So the seasons show us this. On the physical plane, there's a gestation period. The cool thing is when I head into the unknown, I don't have a gestation period. And when you get beyond the gestation period, when you go into the unknown, I have never been here to even know what the gestation period is, but I don't care because I'm enjoying the process. I don't care if it takes 2 weeks or 2 years. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So this is how we get beyond the physical plane. But yet the physical plane is still working. And so, but if I keep doing the same thing over and over, I know the gestation period. If a woman gets pregnant, we know it's roughly 9 months. Go beyond that into the unknown, and you have to let go of when is it going to happen. I'm like, it's not your job. If you don't enjoy that process, it doesn't matter when it's going to happen.
That is so important, guys, what Frank's talking about right there, because it's the mind that wants to be at the end point already.
Yeah.
We want to be, here's where my goal is. All right, I got to be there already. And we don't. Yeah. We ignore the process. In fact, we kind of toil through it. And we're like, this is the work of it. And no.
I like that word, toil.
Yeah, but it's like in the experience of that. That's the journey. That as soon as you can start to enjoy that and be comfortable with that, then everything starts to flow effortlessly.
Yeah, signposts will show up, ends will come, the baby will be
because
delivered.
You no longer have to be there in your head.
Yeah, the baby will be delivered, but then you think,
it's coming.
Yeah, now you're worried about kindergarten and then college and.
So like if I told you at home, if I said, hey, okay, you are going to be a multimillionaire, okay? But you can't know what age, this happens. You can't, you can't speed it up. You can't slow it down. Would you then go through life, with a little bit more pep in your step, a little bit more knowing that, hey, at the end of the day, this is all going to work out. Yeah, I can't. No, excuse me. I should say that if I were to tell you, these times, or tell you when you were going to get this money, et cetera, it would no longer happen or occur to you. So your choices were either, okay, I can never know, but I know it will come.
Yeah.
I will be a multimillionaire, or I get to find out when that occurs, but I don't actually get it.
Yeah,
that's kind of like what is a little example of what this is when something is coming. That is you putting full faith and knowing in something will materialize. Yeah. That's your goal. That's what I do with my goals. And then I allow everything else to simply happen. I'm not putting a time limit on it. I'm not putting this must happen this way on it. In fact, I'm just kind of seeing how this unfolds. That's kind of what this is you can set your goals. You can achieve everything you want. And Einstein said this. He was like, what did he say? I forgot the exact quote, but essentially he said the beginning and the end are defined. You have a will, and you have the ability to will things you want. But how you get those things, or how those things come to fruition or come to light,
you have to go beyond will there.
That's not will. That is the kind of like the mental image unfolding into reality.
It's the unbridled experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on a point what Mike said, I heard a guy say this to somebody. I was at a conference one time, and they were talking about, like, it was trying to get people into more action-oriented states. And the guy said, okay, if I told you in 10 years you would be, like, someone's going to gift you, like an inheritance. You were going to inherit $20 million. How would you act this moment? And the person's like, oh, do this. Well, act that way. Because
that's a perfect
your
example.
action or the way you feel, because by saying that you're going to be a millionaire in 10 years by 20, like $20 million in 10 years, all of a sudden you're actually allowing the feeling to come up. So you generate a feeling, and then when I feel that way, when I feel abundant, I act different. What's happened is the meek will inherit the earth. We don't realize how many billions we have in our. You're not going to experience. Well, even someone has $1 billion, Elon Musk, what, $280 billion? He can't experience it all now.
No.
He can't. But yet, you can very well say you have $280 billion in your bank account. If you did it, what would you do now? What would you do now? Would you go shopping? Would you do this? What would you do? Most people would just sit there and be elated. And then the impulse is, because most people that have a lot of money, they end up helping other people. They don't go shopping. Like, as I gain the understanding of what abundance truly is, my life now is dedicated to helping others to get to this place. Or I shouldn't say helping others. Letting them know this, they already have this in them. They don't even need help. They don't need coaching. It's all within them. I'm just reminding people that you are already powerful. Someone just
helping people remember.
Yeah, someone turned you east and told you, watch for the sunset. Yeah. That's all they did. It's like my dad saying, go out in the field there and find me a 4-leaf clover. Yeah. That's all he did. And all of a sudden you're like, yeah. I'm like, I failed. It's like, no, you didn't. There aren't any. Yeah. And all of a sudden you realize, what? I'm like, yeah, I needed time to myself. So I said, yeah, in the field.
That's what it feels like when you get to this state. It's like,
yeah,
I was chasing my whole life something that I've always had, which is just this moment. It's so simple that it doesn't seem possible.
And
and it's very funky, but you will begin to relax into this, and it's not like you look back and you're like, oh, I should have known this earlier.
No.
Or I should have, I should have been able to get further. No. You start to see that every little turn in your life was to bring you to this exact moment, which is now. Yeah. And whether that moment is now, where you begin and you start this practice and you find yourself, or it's you're a little bit further down the road and you are still or you're beginning to experience these states. This whole thing Frank and I are talking about, this consciousness, this isn't something that you seek and you find.
No.
It's not like that. This is an intangible experience that we're describing.
Yeah. Even the healthiest and wealthiest person still has to be experiencing now. Oh, I'm the wealthiest person in the world. I could stop that. I'm like, no, you can't. Like, the healthiest person still has to maintain the expansion in the healthiest way. They have to. It's focused, though. But when you're really healthy, it's easy to focus on health. Now, there's nuances. And it's not the outside world, although you'll express it in the outside world. So when you see really a healthy person eating, Brussels sprouts and quinoa, it's like they're choosing to do it because at a different frequency, it might taste good. Oh, if I eat that, quinoa or have some Brussels sprouts, I'm going to be healthy. I'm like, not really. No. Because even now, internists, like biologists will tell you, it doesn't matter what food you're eating. If your body's not equipped to absorb it, it's not going to do you any good. Actually, sometimes it could do you harm because your body was so used to eating what we call junk food. And it wasn't the junk food. It was your junk thought that created the junk food. So once I change the field in me, my body goes to a higher level, and there is a natural state that, I might try this new thing, but my new thing might be different than Mike's new thing. So I no longer promote the outside world. I just say, try it, experience it. It's an experience. But this experience isn't going to get you better or greater. Experience is going to perpetuate the greatness that you're in. So yes, do it. Just perpetuate it, but that's not the causation. There's a correlation, but it's not the causation. So whether you're vegan or a meat eater, it doesn't matter. Because a meat eater is going to want to eat more pure meat, and a vegan is going to want to. But once you start saying which is better, I'm like, you're lost. It's an outside world. That's not it. How do you feel? I feel like eating meat. Then eat meat. And guess what? You're going to want to eat the best tasting meat, right? And the best tasting meat is going to be the purest meat, right? Yeah. And if you argue against me, you can. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. But it's how we feel about what we do, not what we do makes us feel.
And keep in mind, we have been conditioned as a society, through religion, through parents, through media, whatever, that there's this idea of if you're not struggling or if you're not in pain, you're not making growth. And that's just not true.
No.
In fact, it's quite the opposite. And when I realized that is when my life really started to change.
But like you just said, so there is a correlation with struggle and pain, but it's accepting. So when I go into an ice bath, and I've done it for a half hour, and if I go in for 45 minutes, there's going to be, I don't want to say struggle, but there's going to be a challenge there. It's going to be uncomfortable. So when you actually, this is now putting the cart in front of the horse. When I expect the uncomfortable to come, I'm ready for it. And in the uncomfortable, I know what's happening. I'm going to the unknown. If I'm going to the unknown, I'm creating new neural pathways. And those new neural pathways are going to make a stronger genetic makeup for the next moment in which I'm going to go in. And I want to be uncomfortable now. But if I think the uncomfortable is going to kill me, I don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't. That's going to kill you. I'm like, no, it's not going to kill you. But if you believe it's going to kill you, you'll have a heart attack. You'll freeze to death. But if you understand, willingly placing yourself in discomfort is the immense growth. People go to the gym, they get bigger because they're willingly putting it's uncomfortable lifting weights. But when you willingly do it, you also get comfortable with the uncomfortable, like you said earlier. Become comfortable with the uncomfortable, the unknowing, and that's the most brilliant place to go. You're going to experience it. Do not deny money. Do not deny the experience outside of you. You want to get a Ferrari, get a Ferrari. But don't think the Ferrari is going to make you happy. It perpetuates. So it is. When you see someone like, they must be doing good, they have a Ferrari. And the truth is they are. Now, if they hold their value in the Ferrari, they're going to decline quick. Just like as quick as the Ferrari is going to decline. But if you don't hold your value in that, you'll get a new Ferrari next year. Or maybe a Lamborghini. Or it doesn't matter. Whatever you hold your value in. It doesn't matter. And you can easily go from the Lamborghini to the Toyota. You can. It doesn't matter. I remember years ago, I was watching this thing, and someone had a video of Mark Wahlberg pulling up in a minivan.
Oh, that's funny.
Because he got kids, And what's this? He goes, and he said it was like the Cadillac of minivans or something like that. This is
sounds like him.
Because he's always self-promoting. I love the guy for that,
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I'm like, he's like, what do you want me to do? This is that car I'm driving. This is it.
Yeah.
Whatever Mark Wahlberg's driving, he probably sold. We got a minivan the next night.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But yeah, the person that was looking at it was like, why aren't you in some $200,000?
Why aren't you living up to my perception of you?
Yeah, exactly. And he's like, I got a minivan. I got kids.
And this happens all the time with people. This is where people are so surprised when actors or celebrities are good people or this, and it's like,
Yeah, what the pragmatic.
My mental image of you is
I don't care
this.
how much money you are. You have to be pragmatic in the world.
But when we start living our lives and we try to, and this is what a lot of us do, especially with our parents, our family, our friends, we try to live up to their mental projections of us. So you're not living your own life. You're living you become now this, you're not in control. You are a karmic wind-up toy projecting, other people's
now you have to
projections of yourself. You are acting out and playing the role of how other people see you. But when you realize that, whoa, it doesn't matter how people see me. I'm going to live my life, through myself within. I'm going to live as I want to. Then you no longer need to fulfill these silly tasks and roles and games and just shit that we do.
Yeah. What's interesting is if you give more attention to how you feel within, the outside world will then emulate you. Outside world will want to be attracted to you. But if you care more of how you look on the outside world, you will be in the tabloids. There's a difference. So when you see, and that's how it gets messed up. People are like, oh my God, they look at all the stuff. Yeah, because they care more about how they feel. If they feel they all of a sudden more choices and more choice, the higher I get up, the more choices I have available to me. And I choose it at the time. All of a sudden the outside world will think it's that big house that made them. No, that's not it. There's nothing wrong with a big house. People are like, oh, you shouldn't need a big house. I'm like, says who, right? Like people think, oh, now everyone wants to go in the opposite direction. Everyone needs to get on a skateboard. We got to save the planet. You know,
we're doing this all over.
Yeah, it's like it's crazy. All right, if you want to do the skateboard for the experience. If whatever it is you want to do, and when you're in these higher states, guess what? You're not going to harm the environment. You're going to actually add to it. All right. What's harming the environment is the mental downgrade of stress. Is replicating it. But guess what? You yourself can get above it. You can rise above it. And when we do, what happens is, I know this about me, and I know this about Mike, and I know this about other people I'm feeling with. They want to show people that it's possible for them too. That's what they do. You know.
Once you
we
find
we want to share
skeleton key of life.
We don't want to hold on to it. I want to share it.
That's
I want to share it. But the thing is this. I can only truly share something with somebody and sit back and allow them to experience it. Yeah. Again, giving someone a fish,
yep.
They eat for a day. But the thing is, I want to take them on my boat and show them how I fish. And like, no, you're going to fish differently.
And the fish are
never get your own boat. Yeah, exactly. There's different types of fish, whatever. But just the fact that you can actually throw a rod or a net or whatever it is, modality in which you fish, you can do that. And I'm living proof. We're all living proof. How do I get that way? Stop looking at what they do and notice how they feel. Again, even meditation is a permission slip to get to that state. All right? I do it. It's a practice of mine. But there's something deeper that's happening beyond the meditation. The meditation is a correlation. It's not the causation, though. But right now, it's a tool. But in the physical world, we need tools. We need experiences. Without experiences, there wouldn't be a physical world. So it's not denying it. But the word placebo doesn't mean fake. It just means positing up. So when you positive something up, it gives you an upward thing. So if you take a pill, it's because you want to get better. No one takes a pill because they want to get sick. Hey, give me that sick pill. I'm feeling too good. But even though that pill is a permission slip or placebo, but you look at it, it makes you better, you're going to give it the causation. It's a correlation. Everything's a correlation. But do it. And the more we do it, we're going to make it easier. So like, hey, if I have the chemistry in my body, do I need to go to the pharmacy? And the answer is no. But if you don't believe that, I suggest you still use the pharmacy. In the meantime, try these practices. Wean off the drug. Do it. There's nothing wrong with it, but everything's a placebo. And then eventually you get into it like I did. Oh, meditation is great. You know, all of a sudden like, well, isn't this a placebo? And it's like, yeah, it is. But again, you need an experience. If you didn't have an experience, it'd be like writing a book and all you had on is the end, the beginning. Mm-hmm. No, I want to fill it in. I want the experience of meditation. That's experience. What's the best meditation? Whatever one you're in. That's it. But yet reminded there's something else deeper that we may never put our finger on in this lifetime, but I don't need to. What's the true causation? We'll call God, explain God. I'm like, I don't have the time or the brain power to do that. But I understand the laws in which God or the universe presented to me. And if I use these laws properly, like the principles of mathematics, that's why 2 + 2 will always be 4 in that principle. All right? So when I do this and understand these principles, I use them to the best of my knowledge. But knowing that they're there, it allows me to be fully present and have faith. But I don't want to know what's going to happen. I want to go into this childlike unknown. I don't want to know when the gestation period is. because I'm waiting to become a billionaire or whatever. I'm going to be waiting. And I can make it there. Then I'm like, oh, now I got to be a trillionaire. It's like, oh, and that is a dreadful way of living. That's the Newtonian way of living life. Yes, Newtonian physics is great. There's aspects of it that I like, the predictability of it. I like that part. But if I want to expand above it, I have to let go of the physical world, the classic physics. I have to let go of it and go into the quantum.
And know there's more possible.
And the quantum actually explains the classic physics. They're all entangled. You can't separate them. That's why, like years ago, when they had Newtonian physics, and they stepped into like in the early 1900s, like late 1800s, 1900s, when they get to quantum physics. Well, the physicists couldn't put the two together. They literally were going to separate them. There's an energy field called quantum field, and then there's a physical world. And Einstein's like, no, there's got to be, he wasn't the only one, but there's got to be something connecting them. And now we have entanglement. Everything's connected. Everything's connected. And you just have to know that. So if I'm connected to the person next to me, would I be their enemy or would I be their friend? Well, of course I'd be their friend. But if you don't think you're connected, survival's going to kick in. They're going to take my food. They're going to take my peoples. My peoples.
This is the problem
peoples.
of separateness.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when you actually realize your
you are
entanglement, I'm having an individual separate experience than Mike, but an entanglement on the show is what's creating perspective shift now. That's it. So I'm not, everyone I encounter, I look at as my friend. I look at it that way. I feel that way. I don't necessarily project it onto him because I don't want to weird people out, because I am understanding of the common understanding what a friend is. But I look beyond that. But again, I know
create a safe space for others,
Yeah, exactly.
You can be welcoming without being, overboard happy.
I'm your
crazy.
friend.
Yeah,
it's like, whoa, shit, I don't
it's
even know your
very
name.
much so a calming.
Yeah.
It's like you can walk into a room and you can know if somebody's been fighting in that room. We've all experienced that. You walk in and you're like, whoa, tension's high in here. Or you walk into a room at a church, and you feel this, sense of peace over the room. It's about the energy within that room.
Yeah, but you can actually change. You are the church. So if you walk in the room with tension, you have the power of transmutation.
Absolutely.
If you hold it, you can get rid of all the tension. Why wouldn't you? Like, I have no cause over that.
I just want people to experience and recognize that energy is a very real and measurable thing outside of us. We kind of pretend like, when somebody says energy, that it's this woo-woo, new age crap. And it's like, whoa, guys, you can walk into if somebody's looking at you.
Yeah.
Eyes burn in the back of your people. The reason these sayings exist, the reason we know this is because we can feel energy.
Yeah,
and to deny that it's not all around us and in everything would just be, again, a foolish, conditioned way of thinking.
Yeah,
because I can't explain it, it doesn't exist.
But actually,
that's what we're doing with it.
Yeah, but the thing is this: you can explain it now.
Oh, of course.
Science is pretty much it's still lagging a little bit, but it's catching up to these understandings. There's a lot of teams of people from all different walks of life, not necessarily directly connected, but they are connected, that are actually studying what we're talking about. And the evidence to the actually tangible Newtonian physics person is like, they can't deny it. Because they're finally explaining the mystical and demystifying it, as Dr. Joe Dispenza says all the time. Science is a language, doesn't matter what religion you are, you get. It doesn't, again, there are opinions in science or whatever, but once you solidify something, whether you come from this country or that country, 2 + 2 will equal 4. There's no argument there. The sun rises in the east, sets in the west. Doesn't matter what language you have, doesn't matter what religion you are, it doesn't matter. So right now, there's a basis of understanding when they actually measure the biology of a human being, when they do certain things and they upregulate and downregulate the bad genes, a biologist that doesn't believe in any of this stuff cannot deny the fact. Unless they're ridiculous and want to say that 2 + 2 is 10 and just have that argument all day long. If someone's telling me that the sun rises in the west, I just stop the conversation. There's no need for it. But that doesn't happen to me. It happens to a lot of other people that want to. I'm like, that's fine. But the science is there, and the science will help you step off. But the science is great. But what's better is the experience. All of a sudden, you realize there are people that were doing this, mystics,
long before the science.
And they're like, yeah, I don't need the science. They don't need it. Because the experience alleviates you from the science. So the reason the people that are telling the science are like, if we could get most people there, what would this world look like? Oh, it would look amazing. But guess what? I don't need I don't need 51% of anybody to do anything. I just do. And when I do, I can see it. I'm in the helicopter. Now, what I want to do is I want to help people come up to the place in which they really should be. Everyone has it in them. Everyone has the ability to do it. It's almost like I use this analogy with somebody. I'm like, we all have cell phones. Some of us are using it as paperweights. But in the analogies onto us, we don't realize we are the sophisticated technology. It's out of technology is people are like, oh my God, it's getting better. I'm like, it's coming to an end. What I mean is we are the technology. Eventually I won't need the cell phone. I won't need the computer because I am it. I already have a GPS in me. I already have the ability to reach the Akashic records or the Matrix in order to pull out. I don't need Google. But right now, we're using technology as a fractal of what we're doing. One day, we're going to wake up and realize, I am the technology. I won't have to pay a cell phone bill or buffering. Some of us, I used to buffer back in school. Like, that was going on in my head. I buffer with Karen all the time. She's like, "What? Oh my God, I just got this buffering shit going on."
Loading.
It's loading. The Wi-Fi must be out, Karen. I can't. What'd you say? I have no idea.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
And that's what Frank and I are here to talk to you guys about. You know, at the end of the day, we want to share, things that we've experienced, ideas, concepts. This practice is for everyone.
Yeah, and also too, we keep reiterating, but this experience me and Mike have was not orchestrated.
No.
So it's a brand new experience. So it's not like we don't sit and study, and obviously I should study. We inherently study.
I was going to say, day in, day out. We kind of do our own
like, oh shit, I got this new
practices.
thing. But even that practice is a correlation, but it's not the causation.
That's it.
But yet we have fun with it. And because me and Mike like to practice in a very similar way, this is where we're together having the show.
This is an outlet for us.
That's it, yeah.
To communicate.
And that's how Perspective Shift came about.
We'll see you guys next week.
All
if you like what you heard, go ahead and click the subscribe button below.
Yeah. Peace out. Give comments, too. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I tell you, give comments.
we'll read them and reply.
Yeah, we will. Yeah. All right.
Thanks,
have a great
guys.
one. All right. Bye.